Do you ever dream of starting something game-changing? Then Visa can help make it happen. Maybe it's creating and selling your own customized kicks for cats, or transforming your dorm into a plushy pop-up shop, or finally going mainstream with your streaming side hustle. The NFL is full of game changers. Just think about watching Patrick Mahomes during his MVP season and knowing as you watched every single game that the league was never going to be the same. Whatever you're bold enough to try, Visa has the power to help bring your game-changing ideas to life. Visa. Anyone can change the game. Did you know the best day of the week is actually Monday, and Thursday, and Sunday? Because it's NFL season, our favorite time of the year. And whether you're into fantasy leagues, betting on your team, or just talking highlights around the water cooler at work, the NFL season just got a lot better thanks to the Elias Game Plan app, the ultimate sports betting and fantasy companion for the NFL, NBA, and MLB. Elias Game Plan is the only sports app from the most trusted name in sports stats, the Elias Sports Bureau, official statisticians of U.S. pro sports leagues. Elias Game Plan is full of information and insights provided by their renowned research team, which means they constantly give you information that's up to date and that you can trust. This app gives you everything you need this season to get a competitive edge. League-validated team and player news and stats, head-to-head comparisons ahead of their matchups, along with Elias key insights from the Elias statisticians, including injury impact analysis, and expert game analysis, which can give you the advantage in betting, picking your fantasy lineups, or showing off your sports knowledge. And Elias Game Plan is releasing new features all the time, like their chat function, which allows you to talk directly with their researchers. Elevate your NFL season today and download the Elias Game Plan app. And right now, I have a special offer when you subscribe. Get 15% off your annual subscription, but only if you use promo code MAYS. Find Elias Game Plan Sports Betting in the App Store or Play Store today and use our promo code MAYS. This episode of the Athletic Football Show is brought to you by Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's finger licking good. Make everyone in the family happy with a 12-piece meal from KFC. Get all your favorites, like 12 pieces of their freshly prepared world-famous chicken, 3 drums, 3 thighs, 3 breasts, 3 wings, 3 large sides of your choice, and 6 biscuits. Order now on the KFC app or at kfc.com.
This is the Athletic Football Show.
Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Great show for you guys today. Diante Lee is going to be joining us a little bit later for our game plan of the week. Always excited to chat with Diante. Before we do that, though, I am pleased to welcome my good friend, Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. I'm loving the new countdown beats that drop for the YouTube stuff.
Puts me in the mood right away.
I think someone in the YouTube comments was like, what can you link that? I want to drop a rap over that. And I think they were dead serious. So way to go. Whoever found that, Kent or Michael, whoever felt that, I'm feeling it as well. It really gets me in the mood for this.
It sets the mood. That's exactly what it does. And it sets the mood for a very fun slate of week 4 games. We have a lot to dig into today. We're going to talk about some issues with the Broncos offense a little bit later as we go under the hood. We're going to talk about a game that I think maybe only you and I care about, but other people should care about a little bit later on this show. Again, we're going to dig into the game plan with Diante. I want to start, though, with a game that we had circled immediately. When we do this show, every single week we meet on Tuesday to pick the stuff that we're going to talk about. So we have like 72 hours to prepare for this show. And the first thing out of all of our mouths was that we wanted to talk about Eagles-Jags because we had to. Not that because it was some oddity or because, we love talking about the Jaguars on this show and the Eagles are doing a couple fun things. It's because this might be the coolest matchup of the entire week and probably a matchup between two of the best 5 or 6 teams in the NFL so far, which if I had told you that a month ago, I have no idea how people would have reacted.
Yeah, this is not the morbid curiosity game or the, this is the sicko watch that only guys that are like all 22 Twitter care about. It's like, no, this is awesome. There are some really cool players, some really cool stuff happening on both teams. I both sides of the ball too. It's not just, oh, look at the quarterbacks, or oh, look at the Eagles offensive line, or oh, look at the Jags defensive line. It's all of it. It's all of it. It's all these matchups, and it's going to be really, really fun. And I'm like stoked. I'm legit stoked to watch this game. Like this game is, I'm not even going red zone channel on my main TV. This game is for sure just getting the full main TV treatment.
The Jags offense has been really good. The Eagles offense is interesting. We'll dig into that side of the ball in a second. But I wanted to start with the Eagles offense against the Jags defense, because these have been two of the most surprising units in the entire league. And not the Eagles, we thought they could be good, but the way that Jalen Hurts has played and the ceiling that they've hit is incredible. And then you combine that with the Jags defense that's kind of blown us away with the way that they've played, how they've deployed some of these guys. What about this matchup, Eagles offense, Jags defense, jumps out to you first?
Oh, the lines. I want to see this Eagles offensive line battle against this Jags defensive line, especially on passing downs. I want to see those games that the Jags defense does. How are they able to, they're not going to really confuse this Eagles offensive line, but they might get them once or twice. Do they create any edginess? Do they force Jalen Hurts to break the pocket to his left as opposed to his right, let him get out of there? This Jags defensive line is, we joke about they're the goblins, they're the orcs like that, but they push the pocket. They have so much speed to power, which is a good way to go against this Eagles offensive line. That's a bunch of maulers and athletic maulers. They're the best tackle pairing in probably the whole NFL. And so you have those two, and now it's like, okay, so who's going to break first? What is going to pop, I think, on this matchup? And I want to see if the game script doesn't go for the Eagles how it's gone for these first 3 weeks. How does it go when Jalen Hurts actually has to drop back and pass? He's only had 12 passing attempts this entire year when the Eagles have been trailing, because they haven't been trailing at all. So I want to see if, when they're not able to lean into that RPO heavy game plan, run the ball RPO, and then a couple go balls, when they actually have to drop back over and over and over, what could happen? And that's if they can keep the game script close.
When I went back and watched the Eagles offense from the Washington game last week, even though they played really well in the first half, even though they won that game convincingly, I weirdly came away less impressed with the Eagles offense than I thought I would be. It cuts both ways. I don't even want to say that. It wasn't as smooth and as dominant from a structure standpoint as I thought it was going to be given the final score. That's what I would say. I came away more impressed with the players, less impressed with them having a schematic advantage play in and play out. Because you go back and you watch that game, the biggest plays of that game were go balls to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. Those are the biggest pass plays that the Eagles hit in that game. There were 3 of them just deep down the field where those guys made plays. So the players are very good and they're capable of doing that, but those are just low percentage plays. In the second half, when they stalled a little bit, they threw a go ball to Devontae Smith on the right sideline, and then he tried to hit A.J. Brown on almost the exact same look that he hit Devontae Smith in double coverage on, which probably isn't the right throw in that situation. Either time, the crosser was actually open. A.J. Brown doesn't go up and get that ball, and those fall incomplete. So when you have players and receiving talent that the Eagles have, you're going to make those every once in a while. But I want to see things that are a little bit easier over the course of a 2-3 game stretch than it was against Washington last week. Those guys had to make some spectacular plays for them to move the ball in chunks through the air. What does it look like against the Jaguars defense that I think is better in the secondary? I think is better pretty much all the way across the board than that Washington defense is.
And just more overall disciplined. Like the Eagles caught him just a couple of times. Like actually Washington's defense did some, I was actually a little surprised. I was like, hey, there's some nice plays they're doing. I mean, the defensive line is good, but they had some where there's no one within 7 yards of Devontae Smith, like on just like a hitch route. And it's like, come on, somebody get near this guy. It's not like they did anything crazy. So I want to see, like you said, a defense that's a lot more disciplined, has a lot, I would say a lot more juice throughout the whole team. As far as the whole defensive unit, not just up front. But yeah, I want to see the same thing. That is why I've had some hesitations with Hurts as quarterback, is that he thrives off go balls and scrambling. And that's fine. You can win that way. But as you play better talent, it becomes a lot harder. So I do want to see it. They repeat calls a lot, which is, I'm talking out both sides of my mouth with this. Sometimes that is good. Sometimes I get mad. Kellen Moore is the perfect example, where they have a great play and they never come back to it. And it's like, no, just keep spamming it until they stop it. The Eagles, sometimes it's like, okay, change it up a little bit. Like you can't just keep running that RPO over and over. You can against the Vikings apparently, but not Washington. They had a couple times. Guy didn't get picked. Boom, the guy gets, the guy goes in the flat, Pascal gets whacked for 1 yard loss or 1 yard gain, whatever it was, or a team that tackles better than Washington did. So Dallas Goedert's not running, weaving in and out of everybody for a 20-yard screen pass. So maybe just that's what it is. I want to see what they look like when they get maybe punched in the mouth and stuff isn't going for them, and they don't have a 17-point lead into halftime or a 3-score lead into halftime where it's more of a 1-score game.
And that's what this Jags defense is going to do. They're going to punch you in the mouth. When you have Mike Caldwell, their defensive coordinator, comes over from Tampa, and they play a ton of zone coverage. Even when they're blitzing, they play a ton of zone coverage. The Jags on third down have forced the issue. They are not blitzing as much as a Tampa Bay team might, but they're playing a ton of man coverage on third down. They played 58% man coverage on third down this year, which I believe is the third highest rate in the entire league. They've played 8 snaps of 2-man on 33 third down plays. They have the most 2-man snaps on third down in the entire league, and they have the fewest third down plays in the entire league. So that percentage is way, way higher than anybody. And that is we are going to punch you in the mouth sort of approach on defense. We're going to challenge you. And they've done a couple different things, and they do it from all these wonky different looks, and they disguise things really well. They had one in the game last week where it was a single high look. They bailed out into 2-man, and they had 2 guys mugged up, and they dropped both edge guys. They're doing so much crazy stuff. And that sort of defense that is hard to identify, but is also really aggressive. I want to see what the Eagles do against that sort of unit, because that's what the Jags have been through the first 3 games.
And it's going to come down to also, like, if 2-man, like you're saying, those guys that creates the hero throws from the quarterback. And we're going to talk about a little later with another matchup with Diante. But it's with the 2-man is that you have to throw sail routes, which are the hard routes to throw because it's way out to the field. Those are the corner routes from the slot. Or you have to throw benders over the middle, or the QB scrambles. So I think there's going to be a lot, if they lean into this, is the Jags defensive line has to be disciplined. They can run these games, but they can't give up the up and over or up and down scramble lanes for Jalen Hurts. That's what is devastating. That's where Jalen Hurts is devastating. Always going to his right. He only has one attempt this entire season going to his left outside the pocket, which I think is hilarious. And that's what Todd Bowles did with the Bucs last year in that playoff game, was they kept flushing him out to the left. And he was like, oh, shoot, now I have to scramble for 2 yards as opposed to maybe hitting a chunk play down the field. So curious how much they lean into that, and maybe they change up the look on a guy that sometimes struggles with post-snap reads.
I didn't even think about that. The defensive coordinator for the Jaguars was on the Bucs staff last year and gave them all those problems in that playoff game, which is something to take into account. The 2-man plan against a scrambling quarterback, obviously much more difficult. So that's something to think about. The play I was thinking about with the 2-man, by the way, one of the most fun parts of watching the Jaguars defense is anybody can be lined up front in any single position on any single play. So it was a 3rd and 10. Trayvon Walker's over the right guard. Arden Key is standing up over the center. Devin Lloyd is lined up in the C gap outside of the tackle. Josh Allen is outside of him, and Oluokun is lined up as the edge on the right side. They only brought 4 guys. They only brought 4 guys, and they all different angles, all different looks. They are having a really good time conceiving of what that defense is play in and play out.
Now imagine them. You got Arden Key or Trevon Walker going against Jason Kelce, where they have the length of that. So if they create one-on-ones, it's like Jason Kelce's a hell of a player. He's playing great, but that's not a matchup that they want. They want those guys, long guys against our tackles, not against the interior guys.
And switching to the other side of the ball, I think that the Jags have done such a good job, and we've talked about this over the first few weeks, about taking advantage of defenses that are undisciplined. Eye discipline, motion, slide routes, just all of these different moving parts. And when I watched the Eagles and the defense that they played over the last few weeks, they did some wonky stuff against the Vikings, especially late in the game. And they did some stuff to Justin Jefferson.
They just threw fastballs at Kirk Cousins. They're like, hey, make a play, bud.
They were daring him to make a play. But when I went back and watched the Washington game, I was like, I wonder if they did anything crazy. And I wonder if they've kind of been outliers in any one area defensively this season. The answer is really no. They're playing a lot of zone coverage. They're not blitzing a lot. But what's really stuck out is that they're just playing zone coverage extremely well. There were a couple different plays in that game where Washington, good play design, trying to take advantage of communication and switching assignments mid-play with mesh plays, with different switch releases, with different motions, and none of it mattered. There was one play specifically where they motioned Curtis Samuel out from the number 1 receiver spot, which left Logan Thomas at the number 1 spot. And James Bradbury bumped down, and it was cover 3. And so because it's a 1-by-3, James Bradbury has Logan Thomas essentially one-on-one. But you have a leverage advantage there. It's a guy on a tight end. You're switching who the number one receiver is. That throw eventually goes to Logan Thomas between the hash marks. James Bradbury, who's the outside corner, breaks up that play between the hash marks. And they just, that kind of stuff and passing things off, that has shown up over and over again with this team. And it kind of feels like the ultimate expression of what Jonathan Gannon wants to be last year, where we're bringing 4. It's not that crazy, but everything looks beautiful on the back end in terms of how things are moving, how we're passing everything off, and how the different pieces are fitting together. And that defense is going to make it really, really hard for anybody they play against, just because they're not really beating themselves very often.
It's kind of funny. This Jaguars offense under Doug Peterson, this Eagles defense under Gannon are like kind of like similar in a way that they don't do anything crazy, but they do it really well. And it's kind of, that's fun. That's a fun matchup. Doug Pearson dresses up a little bit. That's why he can run the same stuff over and over, but he dresses up so well. And I agree with you. When you run the same coverage over and over, and I've talked about this with the Legion of Boom, they also have Hall of Fame players littered everywhere, but it's that when you run the same coverage over and over, you know what your weaknesses are. You know, okay, well, they're going to run curl flat. I'm just making something up, but they're going to run this coverage or run this pass concept. Okay, so we have to pass it off like this. And then they get reps at it. You know what your weaknesses are, so you know how to hide those weaknesses. So that's the benefit when you kind of run more basic vanilla coverage, I think is a good way to put it. I don't mean that as a knock. I mean that more as they're just letting their guys play fast. I'm really excited to watch this because I'm glad you brought up like how Washington was trying to run the mesh concept. And we talked about this on the pre-show. That's what Jaguars are really killing teams with, is a lot of horizontal, a lot of crossers.
Yeah.
And Trevor is able to hang in there and get to Trevor Lawrence. I'm trying to do full name. I don't know Trevor. But when I talk about quarterbacks, for some reason, I always say their first name.
Because you're in the club. You're the quarterback club.
Right?
I understand that. There's a certain brotherhood that goes along with it.
I got the sash, right? So when you run these double crossers, meshes, double crossers, and an intermediate route behind, Trevor is willing to hang in there and get to the second level route or throw the alert if you have an alert tagged on it. The Eagles had a great example against Washington that you brought up where they passed it off like it was nothing. And Wentz was trying to get to the late crosser and he got sacked like one of the 9 times he got sacked. But that's why who blinks first? Because the Jaguars are going to run this play. They've run it all 3 weeks so far under Doug Peterson. They've run it at least 4 or 5 times each week. So they're going to run it. I don't think they will say, no, we're going to, just because of one rep, we're not going to run it. So who botches first? Does Trevor hang in the pocket and find the throw? Or is the coverage so good that the pass rush gets home? Trevor is so good at getting rid of the ball. Like, I think everyone has cited the stat, like how fast he was getting rid of the ball last week. That is what his superpower is. He is a great manipulating in the pocket, getting around the rush, finding a throwing lane, and getting rid of the ball. Who blinks? You got a defense that is going to try and play perfect coverage, pass everything off, let the pass rush get home, or is the concept going to be okay enough and Trevor's going to find the throw? I think it's going to be that's what's so fun about this matchup. And also, it's Trevor Lawrence I think he's 6th in EPA per dropback overall. He's 2nd on 1st and 2nd down, only behind Lamar so far this year. They're staying ahead the chains consistently. The run game is nice and sound, and the passing game really just kind of gets those chunks and gets those easy plays. It's a fun offense versus a fun defense.
This is a simple way to put it, but we always talk about the marriage and the relationship between rush and coverage. And when you watch the Eagles right now, it's a perfect relationship. What they did against Washington, there's a ton of sacks, but some of them are linemen instantly winning. Some of them are Javon Hargrave just kicking ass. Yeah. Others are the picture is changing just enough. They run a lot of zone coverage, but it's all different sorts of zone coverages. It's exactly what this type of defense is supposed to do to you. It's like, is that quarters? Is it 6? Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it? It's just that little bit of hesitation. And because of that, you have a pass rush that can crush the pocket and get home because it's full of dudes. Brandon Graham had some splash plays last week. Fletcher Cox jumped in the time machine once or twice last week. You combine that with a Hargrave and a Reddick and a Sweat, and that's what this is. And the Jags' offense has done a fantastic job so far of limiting sacks. There's been a decent amount of pressure, but Trevor does a great job of not taking sacks. What does that look like this week against a team, again, that really marries their rush and their coverage together and creates pressure through both of those avenues, not just with having a dominant front four?
Yeah, I know it's going to be fun. Like, it's going to be, I don't think Trevor's going to have a lot of times where he's getting rid of the ball in 2.2 seconds, 2.4 seconds. I think it's going to be where he's getting to the throws late. Kind of in the second half against the Chargers, he started having to do this, and he got there. So now you're facing a defense that's been just crushing poor quarterback play over 3 weeks. Goff was okay. Cousins was not okay. And Wentz was not okay. But now you're playing a guy that's playing very confidently and is finding these throws over and over on top of the RPO stuff that they do as well. Mm-hmm. And the screen game is really good from the Jags too, which also hinders pass rush. And you got a great naked game that they've shown so far. So you got a lot of – they have answers to what the Eagles defense wants to do, but the Eagles defense is still playing well.
Last thing before we get away from this game. Revenge games are back.
Yeah.
It's time for the Wick scale.
People keep asking if I'm back. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
That's great. I've been missing that. We should have done it last week. There were a lot of options. We just totally forgot. Yeah. Doug Peterson going back and playing the Eagles. All right. 0 out of 5 wicks. How many wicks does Doug Peterson going back to play Philadelphia get?
Doug Peterson is going with 4 wicks. 4 wicks back in Philly.
That's a lot. That's a pretty. I mean, guy won a Super Bowl there. It felt like, is it just time for everyone to move on? You think there's that much animus with the Doug Peterson Philly reunion here?
It's the same GM. I think it's the same GM, but I think it's why it's not 5 wicks or 4.5 wicks is that he goes, oh, well, Jason Kelsey's still there. There's a couple guys I really like there. Graham's still there. So kind of, Lane Johnson's still there. Some of his guys are still there. So that's why it's not full 5, but it's 4. It's 4. It's those Russians that John Wick used to work for that he's now coming after.
I think that there was a lot of the blame for the Carson Wentz deterioration that was laid on Doug Peterson there near at the end. And when we've seen what Carson Wentz has looked like in both of the spots he just went to, and then just there are those moments, right? Like Carson Wentz kind of is what he is at this point. And for Doug to be doing this with Trevor and to be turning this team around with such gusto over the first 3 weeks, I think there's probably a decent part of him that wants to be like, listen, I was not the problem. I was not the issue here. And you guys are going to find out exactly how not the issue I was here on Sunday.
Right. And I'm curious how the crowd's going to treat him too. Is it going to be full ECW? Like, is it going to be some mutants going on after him? Like that's why
I feel like it's going to be a good reception. The man won a Super Bowl in Philadelphia.
That's what I mean. Are they going to temper back a little bit? It's not going to be that kind of, antsy Eagles crowd that it usually is. Maybe there's a soft heart. Maybe they're not throwing a snowball at Santa in this game.
Well, that's the problem, is that you can, all the thinking and all the emotions and empathy you could ascribe to pretty much any other crowd, you can't do in Philadelphia. No. So it could be all over the map.
Full-blown ECW. That's what I'm thinking. They're going to start chanting for tables. I think that's what's going to happen after the first quarter.
All right. Next game we want to dig into here at the top, Bills at Ravens. So many things to think about with this, starting with all of the guys that could or could not play in this game. The Bills were so hurt last week. They still almost managed to knock off Miami on the road. It sounds like Jordan Poyer, Christian Benford, Ed Oliver, guys that either missed last week or got dinged up in the middle of last week's game. Isn't it amazing that Christian Benford is now an important player for the
I love it.
Buffalo Bills.
I love
it's
that.
The guy... 6th round.
Just wait till Reggie Gilliam's out. Wait till Reggie Gilliam's
out. Missing Christian Benford, but they did when they had to play with Ingram last week and Benford was out. You noticed that. So getting those guys back in the back end will be absolutely huge against a Ravens team that has thrown the ball pretty damn well with Lamar Jackson. Ravens, some things to consider here. Michael Pierce is out. Ronnie Stanley may be back. He did practice on Thursday this week, which is different than it has been over the last couple of weeks. So just a few things to take into account with who's going to be on the field. I want to start with this matchup talking about the quarterbacks. Surprise, surprise. But over the first 3 weeks of the season, not who's been best or who's played quarterback at the highest level or who leads the league in this sort of stat.
Yeah.
I think that through 3 weeks, no two quarterbacks have been more important to their teams, more valuable to what their teams are than the Bills and the Ravens. And I think it's for a few different reasons. But I wonder if you think that's fair.
I absolutely think it's fair. I think these two should be leaving the MVP conversation right now just because they are the teams. Like they are the entire offense. They have nothing else that they can lean on. Of course, I'm going to say Mahomes out of the side of my mouth is the third. But I think these two, though, is just the usage for both of them is just insane.
Yeah.
And it's for a good reason. I mean, they are the best players on the field. It feels like a high school offense in a way where they're like, hey, just give the ball to the best player, get out of the way. Everybody else just don't fuck it up for us. And that's kind of how it feels a little bit with these teams.
Yeah. And I think with Buffalo, it's that they can't block anybody. That's their biggest issue right now is that up front, they're just not very good. We thought that was going to be an issue coming into the game or into the season. And there are going to be moments in games where Josh Allen completely mitigates that, where he's able to kind of pull something out of his ass. He's able to not turn pressures into sacks. He does it so well. And I think from a team building perspective, it's why you can skimp there a little bit. The thing about this Ravens team, though, is that they don't have the guys to necessarily take advantage of that problem.
No.
Miami doesn't have a superstar edge rusher, but there isn't even a guy on this Ravens front that's as dangerous as a Melvin Ingram was for the Dolphins last week. So I think it's twofold here. If you're the Buffalo Bills and you can't block this Ravens team if they're not blitzing, we have a serious problem. And if you're the Ravens and you can't beat up this Bills offensive line, we have a serious problem. So what that matchup looks like, I think, is going to be important not only for how Sunday plays out, but for what the prospect for these teams looks like moving forward. The Ravens went out and signed JPP this week because they need something on the edge, and that is a concern.
They just need bodies. It's not like they're like, they just need guys that they can play. This team the Dolphins game is the prime example. They just get gassed because they have nobody else. They have nobody else they can lean onto, not even just a role player. The guys that were supposed to be role players are starting. It's just how it kind of works with them. And I made this joke on a different show, but I got to come back to it. It's like, it's the Bills run game it feels like the LeBron first Cavs team where Mo Williams,
Larry
is the run
Hughes.
game. Yeah, that's the run game. It's just to give LeBron a break. That's all it is. It's not to score a bucket. It's no, it's just let's just get to 2nd and 9. And that's just exactly what they have to go with. I know, Beller. I have to lean into this because this is what I am. I don't have the bandwidth to craft 5 jokes. But I think it's just this Bills offensive line. It is horrid. As far as run game wise, and the Dolphins were heating them up, and it was remarkable that Josh Allen. It speaks to how incredible Josh Allen is playing right now. That he's able to make these plays, and we talk about, oh wow, this Bills offensive line can't block anyone. They can't pick up a blitz. But really, it's speaking to Josh Allen, making so many things happen that you didn't even notice it that much. He's turning negative plays into super positive plays, to explosives, to first downs. So, yeah, it's one of those that how long could that sustain? That is really hard place to be. There's a reason that why I said high school offense, not NFL offense, because usually it's sit back in the pocket and you can dice it up. Okay, we'll run the ball for 4 or 5, 6 yards. Okay, make it easy on us. They're facing 2nd and 10, 2nd and 12s. 3rd and 14s, and Josh Allen's making all these plays. That's hard to do. Josh Allen's incredible, but that is so hard to do for 17 games. It really is. So this is going to be a good test for these lines, both lines that we're talking about, and whether they can find a way to make it easier on Josh Allen because he can do the hard stuff.
One way to make it easier, potentially going after the cornerback on this team that is not Marcus Peters or Marlon Humphrey. Yeah. Last week, essentially split by half. Going back and watching the game, that's kind of what I thought I picked up on. Jalen Armour-Davis played a lot early in the game. He had a rough time on that side. And then Brandon Stevens played a little bit later in the game. I have to assume Stevens is going to get more of that run based on the way that last week went for Armour-Davis. But when you're looking at that secondary, that's the weak link. That other cornerback spot. And I think it's essentially solely on the right side. I think Peters has played on the left side almost exclusively since he's been back. So whoever that right corner is, are the Bills going to pick on that guy consistently? Because that's what the Patriots were able to do, and that's a lot of how they moved the ball through the air last week.
I can't believe you just said that. That's what the Patriots were able to do in the passing game.
Yeah, that's true.
It is true.
Devontae Parker looked like Randy Moss.
He did.
Stretches of last week. So
he had 100 some yards.
Going to do
quick. Yeah.
Okay,
no,
that's you're circling that guy in red pen.
I think there's going to be a lot of those.
Week went.
A lot of those quick out RPOs that we see when the guys, because he's going to be petrified playing off, and so you're going to see. I bet you they pepper 4 or 5 of those. Just get those quick gimmies to him.
On the other side of the ball, Lamar Jackson has had to carry pretty much as much or more of the load than Josh Allen has based on how this offense is structured. Where have they failed him in your mind based on the way this thing is constructed? And where has he been able to kind of transcend their weaknesses the most?
I think, God, they run so many hitch routes. It's you got Rashad Bateman. They use him as like a deep ball guy, and it's like this guy's like a crafty route runner, and they're using him not on any crafty routes. And they do use him that way, it's like there it is. That's why he's good at it. I think they are letting him be the pocket passer, and they're using the under center stuff, but the under center runs got to get better if you're going to live this way and do the play action stuff, and you got to balance it out a little bit. I think they did lean into the gun run with Lamar reading stuff really well last week, so that was cool to see sprinkled in. But they got to find mesh it together a little bit better. And I think they're still trying to figure that out, but it's Greg Roman. So you always got to remember that. It's like, as excited I'm getting with Lamar and what he's looking like as a passer, it's like, oh man, can they adjust to all this? It's an interesting matchup as far as stylistically. It's so cool because it's the Bills have been a nickel or dime 95% of their snaps, only 5 snaps of base defense on first and second down against a team that runs the most heavy personnel and the most 21-12 in the entire NFL. They've only been 11 personnel. We're going to talk about the stat again later. 10% of the time this entire year against a team that wants to be a nickel every snap. So that's a very fun stylistic matchup.
And there's another stylistic wrinkle. We talked on Sunday's show. Lamar has carved teams when they have brought pressure this year. He has been by far the most efficient quarterback in the league when blitzed this season. Guess who doesn't blitz?
At all.
The Bills. The Bills do not blitz. If they know this, if they know you're one of the guys, there's a small table of quarterbacks that you just can't blitz anymore. And the Bills are totally fine just not blitzing them. It's not like the Cardinals. It's like, we're still going to bring 40% of the time. We're going to bring extra guys. We don't really give a shit. That's just how we live. The Bills are willing to just say, we don't do this. We are not going to blitz you if we think you can hurt us that way. And that's what the Ravens have done. So the Ravens are going to have to try to create explosive plays and create plays through the air against 7 guys in coverage this entire game. And the 7 guys in coverage for the Bills this week, even without Micah Hyde, are going to be better than the 7 guys in coverage last week for Buffalo.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing I was so curious about is this Bills, when you have a really awesome matchy kind of defense, everything is done on basically timing. They have to cover for about 3 Mississippis. Lamar is so willing right now to hang in the pocket and let over routes keep running and hit him late. Like he's throwing those little sidearm passes to Mark Andrews late. That's going to be really cool. It's like, how can you get to 4 Mississippis? Bills defense. Like I think that's what they're going to be trying to attack. It's like, we're going to try and do more extended runny routes. Runny. That's not a term I ever want to use again. Routes on the move, I think is much better than static routes, because if you go static routes, which the Ravens have been doing in their passing game, a lot of
they'll eat you alive.
They'll crush you. They go, okay, have fun with that 3-yard gain on a hard.
It's exactly what they want. It's exactly what they want. You're playing into their hands if that's what you start doing.
So you got to be funky.
They want some of that longer developing stuff. Having Ronnie Stanley back in the lineup could be a big one with that. And we'll see what happens. If he plays, is he on the sort of pitch count that David Bakhtiari was on last week? But it sounds like Patrick McCarry might not play. So while the Packers have this surplus of offensive linemen and they can work him back slowly, do the Ravens have the same luxury? And I think that's a real question at this point. I am very excited to watch what this matchup looks like between these two guys, because they are playing at such an extremely high level. And again, what is being put on their plates is so outlandish compared to virtually every other quarterback in the NFL right now. We're seeing 2 guys kind of at the peak of their powers going at it, and that's must-see television.
Yeah, it's different than what Brady and even Mahomes have done the last few years, which is so pass heavy and them just dicing guys up from the pocket. These guys are just doing everything. It's so different, so different than we usually see. Even from Lamar's MVP year, this is different because he's passing more and being more the quarterback on top of all the run games.
They had the highest neutral situation pass rate in the league over the first 2 weeks, I think.
It's so crazy.
They're living in a different world than they were when he won the MVP, and he's still affecting the game at the same level. And I think that's what's so impressive about it.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's 2 awesome players that playing at the peak of their powers going against each other. It's fun.
I think it's a really important test for the Ravens defense because they're still figuring it out. It's the 4th game now of a new defensive coordinator. They got some new pieces on the back end. I think we're going to learn a lot about what they profile as moving forward in this game.
If they're testing his patience, this game is going to be, we saw in the Dolphins game when he kind of was feeling antsy a little bit. He started throwing some fire and it backfired against them. So let's see if he can just take a couple punches and just go, nope, we're not going to change our game plan, because that's what it's so hard against these good quarterbacks to not get antsy. Make them be patient. It's like, that's what both defenses have to be. The Bills have proven it year in, year out that they can do this. Can the Ravens do that with maybe not the best type of matchup that they want?
All right, we're going to take a quick break before we get to the matchup of the week with Diante breaking down the Chiefs offense against the Bucs defense. Style isn't like math. There isn't one correct answer for everyone. It's all about finding what's right for you. Finding the perfect suit is impossible, but finding a suit that's perfect for you is simple thanks to Indochino. Choose your favorite fabric and customize every detail to find the look that's perfect for you. Submit your measurements online or get measured in-store for a custom, made-for-you fit at an incredible price. And with their fall collection featuring new colors and premium fabrics, you'll be in style all season long. I have multiple Indochino suits that I've worn over the years to every event you can imagine. Weddings, parties. I love how fit it is to me, and I don't have to worry about getting it altered or changed. I bought a suit off the rack recently, and getting it altered cost a couple $100. It was such an ordeal. With Indochino, you never have to worry about it. Everything fits perfectly and is made to your exact specifications. You can get a premium personalized wardrobe without spending a fortune. Shop custom fitted shirts, casual wear, outerwear, and more. They're always adding new designs and fabric options, like their latest fall collection. Design your perfect suit with Indochino. To get $50 off any purchase of $3.99 or more, use promo code MAZE at Indochino.com. That's INDOCHINO.com, promo code MAYS. When anyone sends you money, or if you need to get paid back, always ask for Zelle. With Zelle, money goes straight into your bank account, and it works even if the sender banks somewhere different than you in the US. My mom and I use Zelle all the time. It's just such an easy, simple way to transfer money back and forth. She doesn't have to figure out any of the other services. Zelle is a simple way for us to make those transactions quick and easy. The money goes straight into your bank account, typically in minutes between enrolled users. You don't have to download another app because it's probably already in your banking app. It's in over 1,600 different banking apps, and you can always double check the sender that has your correct US mobile or email address so the money goes to the right place and straight into your bank account. Look for Zelle in your banking app today. Guys, you've got to do yourself a favor and try Saxx. I'm talking about them a lot recently. They make the most comfortable underwear for men, thanks in part to their patented ballpark pouch, which basically is a built-in hammock that holds everything in place with no sticking or irritation. Saxx underwear is legitimately life-changing, and they just announced Steph and Trayvon Diggs as new partners of the company. Saxx also has the softest styles for everyday use, and their sport line is at next level. Athletic shorts, compression tights, swim trunks, all with the ballpark pouch. I love the Gainmaker 2-in-1 short that Saxx sent me. I'm very particular about my workout shorts. I like a built-in compression short. Saxx has that, plus the softest material I've ever had with a pair of workout shorts. They're already my favorite ones. They are in heavy rotation for me right now. And here's the kicker. Everything from Saxx is backed by their comfort guarantee. That's 100% satisfaction or your money back. So head on over to Saxx.com/maze and get 10% off plus free shipping using promo code MAZE today. That's SAXX.com/MAYS and promo code MAZE at checkout for 10% off and free shipping.
So, Frank, here's the plan.
All right. It's time to bring in our buddy Diante Lee for the game plan of the week. We like to break down one side of the ball in one of these matchups. Diante is an actual defensive coordinator in his day-to-day life, which gives him some real insight here. You were putting some clips online this week, man. You guys are just flying around, wrecking shit.
Yeah, man. I don't know if people can tell, but I've got my mid-season defensive coordinator beard working right now, too. That's what all that work kind of goes towards, or how it's reflected. Yeah, man, we're having a pretty decent year, and I'm definitely looking forward to what the rest of it's going to look like.
All right, so you are now Todd Bowles. You are no longer Diante
Right.
Lee in this exercise. I want you to start building me a game plan for how the Bucs defense is going to take care of Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense on Sunday.
I think it all starts with tight coverage. That was the approach in the Super Bowl that they played against when they played against each other a couple of years ago. And that was what allowed pressure to get home. Obviously, the kind of sieve that I think the Kansas City offensive line was in 2020 is not what it is now. I would certainly say not, but I would think that that's kind of made up for in the fact that there's not a Tyreek Hill now that you have to worry about devoting 4 eyes to. So I think that you can still stick to some of the things that Todd Bowles really likes to do, which is playing tight coverage on passing downs. And then on those mixed down situations, it's all about trying to give the illusion of bringing pressure, right? Using Levante David, using Devin White as potential blitzers and dropping edges out into coverage, the way that we talk about simulated pressures and creepers. I think that that's going to be the generic framework that they're probably approaching Sunday with.
I know that the Chiefs' offensive line is better than it was in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Nate, at one point did we get concerned about the way Orlando Brown is playing?
Well, that's the misconception with him. He got those all-pro teams and Pro Bowls in Baltimore, and then he goes to Kansas City. Everyone's like, "Oh, well, they got an elite left tackle." And it's like, no, they didn't. Like, this is not the guy that he's fine. He's an above-average starter, I would say. But I think there's a big disconnect between what he actually is and what his actual like ability is. So that's where it's kind of concerning in a game like this, where the other defense got some juice that can run around him. His method, and it works for him. And this is sometimes how big Bryant McKinney made a whole career doing this. Just let guys run around. Just let guys run around, see how it goes. Okay,
when you're 6'8", 360, that's an exercise.
A lot of surface area.
Don't even have to move. Don't even have to move your feet. Just go around me. Yep, that's good. And Mahomes makes it work because he goes up and out of the pocket, and it works. But that is an issue when you're going against a defensive front that will run games that will get you into awkward angles where you do have to move your feet and have better eyes. So yeah, it's the interior of the Chiefs offensive line is good when Trey Smith is healthy, but the tackles are still, like it's not this big upgrade from when Fisher was there. It's more about the same. Like that's kind of how you have to look at it. Even if they play so stylistically different, that left tackle is totally different. And we can't not even talk about without Mitchell Schwartz at right tackle. But that's, there's a little bit of difference than what I think the conception of what this offensive line looks like.
I think the stunts in the games is a really good point to make. I think that, in your mind's eye, thinking about that Super Bowl, I think it's easy to think that it was just straight four-man rushes killing them. It was more late pressure, late developing pressure from Jason Pierre-Paul, from your Shaq Barretts, getting guys who were looping, to your point of Mahomes being a up and out escaper from the pocket. Getting a guy in his face as he's climbing creates a lot of distress. So that's definitely something I'm looking at as well.
Absolutely.
Coverage-wise, behind some of those simulated pressure looks, Diante, is there one or two things that you feel like you can lean on that makes the game harder for Mahomes? We talk about this all the time. There's some quarterbacks you can't blitz. Mahomes is one of those guys. So the simulated pressures that the Bucs are comfortable bringing align nicely with how you want to attack this team. But what are you playing behind that? And are you picking anything up from some of the stuff that the Colts did last week to slow this team down in ways that are probably a little bit surprising?
I would say, from a simulated pressure standpoint, one of the things that I think that people might think of simulated pressures in terms of we're trying to get a free runner at the quarterback. And I think that there's certainly a value in that. But if you're a 3-4 team, what you're really after, and this is something that we've talked about on the podcast together, something that Nate has talked about with you, Robert, is keeping the back end to protect. Right. Yes. So you have a true coverage advantage all the way across the board in terms of your zone defenders. And that's one of the things that I think Tampa Bay does really well, because you have to honor the athletic ability of their two backers in White and David. So that's something that I will be looking at when you're trying to play those zone looks. And for Tampa, their zone looks is not going to be quarters. It's usually single high. So you're talking like a soft cover 3, and you're talking about some of their rotational cover 2 stuff. And those are things that they do really effectively, because you have to honor the fact that it could be cover 1. It could be a 5-man pressure. We don't know who the fourth rusher is going to be, because they give you these bare front and odd front style of looks, and they'll walk guys up to the line of scrimmage as well. So that to me is what I will be looking at from a perspective. And then the second half of your question, Robert, when you're talking about playing tight coverages, matching and routes, there are 2 things that I saw in the Packers game that I'm really interested to see happen when these two teams match up with one another. So the Packers went 1-by-3, as Nate has mentioned multiple times on this podcast, right? Meaning it's a trips formation, but the tight end is a wide receiver that's split out, right? When the Bucs saw that from the Packers, what they did was take Levante David out the box to play one-on-one with the tight end. And when you can do that, and this is something else that we talk about in coverage all the time.
No one can do that, by the way. This is like a one-of-one thing.
Yep. That's exactly it.
Exactly. So, and when you have that kind of versatility, when you talk about flooding the coverage to the trip side, sending multiple bodies and sets of eyes to the trip side, when you can do that, that kind of piqued my interest in, okay, well, if you try to put Kelsey at X and David can handle this guy, well, shoot, you can do a lot with Logan Ryan now taking away crossers, those dagger concepts that we know that Mahomes likes, working in the middle of the field. Anything vertically, you can now match up or get double teams on those vertical routes and not worry about undressing that intermediate area of the field because you've got a robber player. And that's something to me that really piqued my interest. And then the other side of it is just the fact that they play two-man. They'll play more aggressive quarters. They'll play a little bit of bracket stuff. They will do whatever they need to in terms of getting multiple sets of eyes on guys that are working those intermediate areas. And then that's really when you got to deal with the defensive ends breathing on your neck, right? Bringing in the pocket. You start to feel that a whole lot more when it's pat the ball. Okay, my first look, they're playing tight coverage. We don't like this against man. I'm moving on. Holy crap, my number 2 has a double team on it. Well, now where am I going, right? Now it's like, okay, intermediate area, late in the down, and now you're losing vision. I can't see the backside safety now because I'm just trying to find my receiver and the leverage that he's being defended on. I've got to squeeze this in right now because I'm running out of platform to throw off of, and that's where you get that pick that Logan Ryan had last week against Aaron Rodgers. So I think we're going to see a good amount of the same thing.
Nate, we have an offense that struggled last week against the Colts and is now playing the best defense in football for the first 3 weeks of the year. How do you get back? How do you get back to feeling comfortable and really being the team that you want to be on that side of the ball?
Yeah, that last week from the Chiefs against the Colts, and I can't believe I'm comparing Andy Reid to Marilyn Monroe here, but I'm going to. And that's the quote that every girl likes to say is that if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. Identical figures between Andy Reid and Marilyn Monroe.
Same person. It's split an image of each other. But why I'm saying that is Andy Reid resorted to his worst tendencies last week in the sense of how they ran the ball. And how they're using their personnel. They're spreading out, running RPOs, which is fine. I like that when they sprinkle it in, but this is the frustration. All the times they hit the wall last year is when they leaned into this. And Gus Bradley, of all people, and I swear that Andy Reid was seeing red, and he saw Gus Bradley on the other side. He's like, oh my God, we're throwing for 500 yards. And no, they didn't throw for 500 yards, and they didn't run the ball efficiently, and they had to make a couple big plays from Mahomes out of structure, which is fine. But that's a team that what coverage is coming more or less every time. Now you're playing against a team that likes to change the picture on you. Or if you, like you said, Diante, running all that two-man stuff. And looking back, I found my Super Bowl notes from a couple of years ago when they met in the Super Bowl. I can't believe I found it. Google Docs is great. And I thought, I was like, okay, wow, I don't think the Bucs will run a lot of two-man. They've shown some two-man this playoffs, but you don't want Levante David on
Travis them Kelce to the Super Bowl.
And I didn't think that
they played it during the playoffs.
Levante David would be able to hold up against Travis Kelce, and he did. He kicked his ass in that game. So that I know that's 2 years or a couple of years ago. I get it, but it's still like they're both 2 years older. Like it's not like one got younger. One's a Benjamin Button, situation going on. So I think with that, that is a good matchup because they're going to make Mahomes be a hero, or they're going to make Andy Reid be patient. And Andy Reid has to. They are so much more efficient running from under center. It's not even a question. I think they are the fourth worst team from shotgun by success rate, and they're about league average when they run from under center, which is what we knew this summer and spring. That's what they should be leaning into. Counter is their best run play. We knew this. This is what they should be leaning into. Their second best play is the Y insert play we talked about, where the tight end folds inside. They ran it once last week against the Colts. It's just go back to what you think this plan was going to be. Don't go with your gut feeling, your big gut feeling, Andy Reid. But I also think that example that Diante is bringing up with the simulating, keeping the back in protection. CEH, as limited as he's been as a runner, has been devastating as a pass catcher so far this year. He's fourth in the NFL, all positions, running backs, receivers, and tight ends, in first downs per route. Fourth in the entire league. That's almost triple the usual rate of other running backs. Well, if we can't get him out, and he has to pass protect, that's a weapon they're pulling away from them. Or if you do the two-man hug rush where, there he is, there's White coming up, acting like I'm blitzing, but I'm not blitzing, and then the running back has to hang, or he triggers, you're just creating pressures where they're not really pressuring. So I don't know, the Bucs have a lot of answers to what the Chiefs want to do, how they want to attack. But I would say is that the Chiefs have to go back to the basics, really. I think they have to be a play-action heavy team. I also want to see how every time I talk about the Bulls defense, I always say the advantage is to get into a base kind of offense, 12, 21, or 13 personnel, make them match with base defense because he likes to do that. Well, if you go 12, Kelce gets treated as a receiver. So that gets taken away from you. So I think you're going to see a lot of 13 personnel where you see 3 tight ends to try and get them to match. and then attack vertically from those looks, because then you could treat Kelsey as a normal receiver.
That's what they did against Arizona in week 1. And
Yep.
they did it to great effect in that first game of the season. So
That's
when
how
you have a
attack
team
their front defenses.
Yep. So
I know it's
awesome.
it's interesting. I know, it's just honestly, it's just Andy Reid, just stick with the basics, just do, and it'll be fine. I know you want to be creative and cute, but it's like don't listen to the siren song.
Right.
This is going to be a great one. We'll be watching this on Sunday night. Diante, really appreciate the time, my friend. Always good to chat with you. You'll be back on Monday.
Yes,
For
sir.
the Monday hangover. For those of you guys who
shit.
don't know,
It's good.
every
schlock.
Monday in this exact space, Diante joins me. We talk about some of the games that we could not hit on the Sunday recap show. If you are not checking out that show either on YouTube or on the podcast feed, you really should, because you get a hell of a lot of Diante, and we're all better off for that. Thanks a lot, bud. You got a game tomorrow?
Do have a game tomorrow. Beautiful thing is that we're seeing the wing tee. That's why there's a little more length to my beard than there would be. Haven't had much time to think about anything else but stopping to run.
Good look at the polars.
Exactly.
I'm sure you
All
guys
right,
will do
you
just
guys.
fine. We'll talk to you later,
Diante.
bud. We're going to take a quick break, and we get back. We're going to try out something we're calling This One's For Us.
Oh no.
So, Martin Scorsese, I don't know if this is an urban legend or if it's actually a quote attributed to him, but he was talking about how you succeed as a director in Hollywood, how you build a healthy Hollywood career. And he said, you do one for me and one for them and one for me. And you one commercial film, and that allows you to make whatever you want. He made The Color of Money, and so he could make The Last Temptation of Christ.
Oh,
And
boy.
that's how he would. And The Color of Money is one of my favorite movies, like, of all time, by the way. The fact that that was like his commercial film designed to
Right.
fuel his art is hilarious, because I love the entire movie.
I
So
know the Spielberg example is he didn't want to do Jurassic Park because he wanted to do Schindler's List. And then they were like, well, do Jurassic Park first, because I don't think you're going to want to do Schindler's List, or want to do Jurassic Park if you did Schindler's List first. So I know but then he created the same thing. His commercial venture was Jurassic Park, one of the greatest action movies of all time.
So we talk about a lot of games, the big games. Talk about Bills, Ravens. Talk about Jags, Eagles, which is actually kind of a big game now.
Yeah.
So we can get to Browns, Falcons. This one's for us. All right.
Yeah.
Wow, God, why are you talking about that? When I was doing the fourth screen today, I was like, yeah, Browns Falcons is going to be on one of the TVs. And someone was like, what? I thought I was going to have to make a case for that. Here's my case for Browns Falcons before we get into the nitty gritty. Okay. There are 3 teams in the NFL right now, 3 offenses that are ranked in the top 10, throwing the ball and on the ground, passing and rushing DVOAs in the top 10. One is the Philadelphia Eagles. Like one of the consensus best teams in the league. They're favored by almost a touchdown against a Jaguars team that we like. The other 2 teams, top 10 in rushing and passing DVOA, are the Cleveland Browns and the Atlanta Falcons. You should be tuning into this game.
You should. If you like offensive football, you should be watching this. And it's not because of some amazing quarterback. Like, it's not Lamar, Josh Allen. This is sound. It's well coached, well schemed offenses going at it in 2 different ways, or some similarities, but 2 kind of different ways how they go about it. And I know you have some stats that you're ready rip roar with them, because it's going to be, for an X's and O's geek, this is one of the most fun offensive matchups to watch.
We'll get to the Browns. Their running game is the best running game in the NFL in terms of design, construction. It's so intentional in the way that they construct it. And I think that's worth digging into. But I want to start with the Falcons offense. Some of these numbers are absolutely wild. Okay. We talk about, you mentioned the Ravens stat a little bit earlier on the show.
Yeah.
They're in 11 personnel on 10% of their plays. It's not even real. It's so far away that it almost doesn't count.
Deontay's playing that team tomorrow.
Yes. The Falcons rank 31st in 11 personnel usage at 19.3% of their snaps. In any other season, that would be such an incredible outlier, because the team that ranks 30th is the Dolphins at 46.7%.
It's absurd.
19 compared to 46.7 is 31-30. That's what this Falcons team is. They're in 12, 21 all the time.
Yep.
And from that, they have the most insane play action passing game that we've really seen in the modern era of football through 3 weeks. All right. Marcus Mariota is using play action on 47.4% of his dropbacks this season. I was looking at PFF data all the way back to 2012 when they started tracking play action percentage. Only 2 quarterbacks have ever finished above 40% for an entire season. Last year, Tua, which doesn't count.
Nope.
It was all RPOs. It's a different sort of thing. It's not the same as what we're talking about here. The only other quarterback that really did finish above 40% was Robert Griffin in 2012 with that Kyle Shanahan team where he lit the entire league on fire. And that was like just over 40. Mariota's at 47.4. Okay. It's insane.
It's hilarious.
It's absolutely insane. All right. Right now, he's averaging 10.4 air yards per target, which is 3rd in the NFL. Okay. Marcus Mariota. One of the reasons for that is that the Falcons lead the league in dropbacks with 7 or 8 guys in pass protection. So heavy max protection. It's the most in the NFL. On those plays, he's averaging 15.4 air yards per attempt. He's 12 of 16 for 251 yards on those plays. That's 15 yards per attempt. So the Falcons offense is just heavy personnel play action with max protection, and they're just chucking the shit out of the ball. It is awesome. And they're doing it with Drake London and Kyle Pitts.
Yes.
It is awesome to watch.
It's so much fun. And it's not the same play action over and over and over.
No.
It's every variation you can think of. It is, they pull a guard, they fake zone, they have a full house backfield. And the personnel groupings, I cracked this joke in the pre-show, was that it's a lot like how Boise State used to be when Kellen Moore was the quarterback, where they run all these personnel groupings. So like they run 12, but it's all these, the 12 is different. The 2 tight ends is different. The 2 receivers are different. They run 22 with a fullback in there. It's different. It's different. Who the configurations of all this. They'll go 22 with Kyle Pitts. Yes, technically he's a tight end, but no, he's really a receiver. So really we're in 21.
And then sometimes he's in the backfield.
And so, and sometimes we're in a full house backfield with him running a wheel route on a play action. It's awesome. And these 2 teams are so well coached. Like, it's not just some gimmick where it's like, oh man, this can't hold up. No, these guys are, the Seattle tape was so much fun. They're like shifting and motioning, and you could see the tight ends communicating and like their sound. The Seattle brought a look and they just pass it all off in protection. And Mariota's just hitting these chunk plays one after another. They're hitting, and it's not just, I know people are getting mad that Pitts isn't getting a lot of targets, but the fact that they're hitting other guys for these big chunks is ridiculous. And the first 8 completions all went for a first down against Seattle. Every throw was past the sticks. That's insane. It's awesome and it's fun. And then when you watch when they start running the ball, so they kind of it's like they use play action pass to set up the run as opposed to the flip side of it. That's what this Falcons team's doing. It's awesome. It's one of the most fun teams I've seen. Oh, there we go. We'll go solo box right now. So, but honestly, I'm telling you guys, if you want to watch a team that feels like a fever dream, just watch this Falcons offense. Is this really how it's going to go, Robert?
Now, our next partner is a pretty cool product. Let's talk about Athletic Greens. If you're looking to get better gut health, more energy, or a stronger immune system in a really easy, natural way, you've got to check out Athletic Greens. I'm sure you'll all agree that most of us aren't huge fans of having to take a bunch of pills or vitamins in the morning. But with Athletic Greens, you can get rid of all those extra vitamin bottles and finally make some room in your cabinet. Athletic Greens is an all-in-one solution that actually tastes good, so you'll really enjoy getting your daily vitamins. I love the taste. It's nice and sweet and tropical. I make it in the morning while I'm brewing coffee. 1 scoop, cup of water, mix it up. An easy, simple way to add more nutrition to your day. So what is this stuff? With 1 delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season. It's just 1 scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/maze. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/MAYS. Take ownership over your health and pick up your daily nutritional insurance. No matter what you're wearing, confidence starts on the inside. That's why it's so important for men to think about their testosterone health early. That's because testosterone is believed to affect everything from our libido to our blood health. Thankfully, Roman's testosterone support supplements were designed by real doctors to make sure your body is maintaining its greatness. Feel confident from the inside out with Roman. You probably know that testosterone affects a lot of aspects of men's fitness and health. From sex drive to muscle and bone mass, the experts believe testosterone plays a huge role in our body's natural function. Testosterone is an important part of a man's body and health, so it's important to start supplementing it early. Dietary supplements are a way to aid your body's natural functions if you feel like diet and exercise are not enough. Roman T Support is meant to help men maintain their body's natural testosterone production. Roman T Support is a proprietary supplement formulated by Roman's in-house doctors. You can't find this blend anywhere else. Roman offers flexible monthly plans with free 2-day shipping. Go to GetRoman.com/maze today. If you're approved, you'll get $15 off your first order of Roman T Support. That's GetRoman.com/maze. GetRoman.com/MAYS.
All right. I got kicked out of here for some reason. Technical issues. Always
Did it say it's not your fault?
They said it's not my fault, which
I know.
It did make me feel better that it wasn't my fault. All right. Let's talk about the Browns here really quick. Anything else you want to say about the Falcons before we were so rudely cut off by the technology?
No, that was good. I realized how hard hosting is as soon as I saw a big screen of me. Barnwell even just hit me up and just goes, "Yeah, that was really funny." Like, just you could see just because I look down, I look up, I was like, "That's not normal. I shouldn't be that big. I shouldn't look like the Wizard of Oz."
Conclusion here with Atlanta. It's extremely fun, and I think the bigger picture takeaway, when they draft a quarterback, which they are going to at some point, or however the quarterback plan plays out, they are building a fascinating infrastructure for whatever that plan ultimately ends up being. Arthur Smith showed during his time in Tennessee that he was one of the best, most innovative offensive football coaches in the NFL. And with this Falcons team, that's Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and a hodgepodge of other guys that don't really make sense. A year into a 3-year rebuild, they're already doing enough fun shit to be an efficient offense.
It's the most QB-proof offense in the league right now, and that's usually we bestow that to a Shanahan offense. No, this offense is it's chunk, and it's not nickel and diming teams. It's chunk plays. It's really exciting stuff and explosive, and the explosive offenses are always fun.
It's intentional. The details of it are so thoughtful and well constructed. And this is why we're doing this. It all makes sense. It all fits together. And when you watch the Browns offense, that's the same feeling that I get. What they're doing in the run game, every shift has a purpose behind it. Every motion has a purpose behind it. Every formation has a purpose behind it. We talked with Mitch earlier in the week about creating angles in the run game. How do you do that? Yeah. And the Browns do it in more ways than I think any other offense in the NFL does right now. And when you combine that with one of the best, most expensive offensive lines in the entire NFL, and I think still the best pure runner in the league in Nick Chubb. I thought it for a long time. Jonathan Taylor had that amazing season last year. If I was picking one guy, I got 17 games. This is my running back. I still think it's Nick Chubb. So when you have those factors all falling in line, you get an offense that currently leads the NFL in EPA per rush, and it's not surprising at all.
Yeah, and that's what's awesome is Nick Chubb's amazing. And then when we're going to spell him with Kareem Hunt, who's not just some spell back. That guy could he could be a lead back for a lot of teams. So they have fresh legs just constantly coming at you. That's well blocked. It's well schemed. You say the most expensive offensive line, probably the most expensive offensive line coach as well, yes. Bill Callahan. So, and it's for a good reason. This stuff is so sound. They run pin pulls so much where you have two guys pulling to the outside. And we talked about when last Thursday's show, we were complimenting David Njoku because he's become a dynamic blocker as well as being a very athletic receiver. And how they use him is so cool.
I like how you frame that athletic receiver. It's a good way to do that.
That's good.
Yeah, it's very good.
He can high point some balls. He can do that. That's how I'm gonna put it as. But that's what is so cool because pin pulls hard because of the angles usually you have to go at. You can't have get the pin by the tight end because you have an outside linebacker or a D end lined up outside of the tight end. So what they do, the Browns do, and you might have talked about this with Mitch, is they have them split about 3 yards, an open stance, and then they have them feign the D end and then go crack a linebacker. And so now it's almost like a trap pin pull. in a way, like an outside trap in a way. And it works, and they do it beautifully. And then when you got Nick Chubb at 235, who can get north quicker than anybody, then you got a hole. He hits that crease. He's at 7 yards before he's getting contacted. Yeah. And now he's one-on-one with a safety who's like, I've seen pictures of this guy in high school when he was running track and he looks like a monster. Like, I don't want to tackle this guy one-on-one. And they do it over and over, but they do every type of run play. We compliment the Lions for doing this. This is even just as good as a version, if not better. That it's so cool how they're able to do all this stuff in a well-intentioned way with Brissett hitting play action passes now much better than Baker ever did when he was there.
And I love when you can just kind of plug and play pieces and you don't notice it because the scheme puts them in such good spots.
Right.
Ethan Pochich was not supposed to be the starting center for this team coming into the season. It was supposed to be Nick Harris after they let JC Treader go. They have the most efficient running game in the league with a backup center. And watching him play is so weird. He's 6'6". He's so much taller than most centers are. And you watch him play and he's got all this length, but he doesn't play with a ton of leverage, which Randy Mueller pointed out on Football GM last week. I thought it was a great point. And they're just asking him to use that length. He's not having to move guys off the line of scrimmage. And just, again, it's intentionality. And just thinking about every detail about how we put these guys in really good spots and make things easier on them. And both of these offenses have done that. And I think that's why, even if it might not scream marquee matchup, there's a lot of stuff here that's worth paying attention to.
It is. It's a game that you watch. And you're like, oh, this is a lot more fun than you would think. I think there's gonna be a lot. I think it's gonna be a boat race a little bit. I think there's gonna be a lot of points. And I love the point that you're bringing up. How just get in the way a little bit. He's like Robin Lopez. Just I'm gonna scream my butt off on every play. Like this is what I'm doing. Tall. Yeah, I know, right? The same length, but that's exactly how they're using them. And then you got some awesome guards on either side of them doing some great stuff too.
Batonio's banged up. See if he plays in this game. Obviously, I mean, he's a huge weapon for them in the run game. Him as a puller, all the different things he can do. He's one of the best players in the league at his position, and just overall, I think, relative to his peers at his position. So definitely something to take into account. All right. Those are some offense we've enjoyed watching so far this season. Let's get to some offenses that we want to do a little checkup, a little tune-up. Let's go under the hood.
Better check under the hood.
All right. Last week we started doing this with the Ravens offense. Just a unit that, what's going on here? Like, what's wrong with this? We talk about the Ravens running game. I want to start this week with the Broncos offense. 22nd in offensive DVOA through the first 3 weeks. Just a very odd collection of parts. You know, some of the numbers that I think we're going to throw out here almost seem fake because it just doesn't seem like a way an offense is supposed to operate when things are clicking. When you watch the Broncos offense right now, what do you think is the biggest issue that they're having?
They listen to the siren song of let Russ cook a little bit too much. They're leaning into stuff that Russ is not good at, which is just shocking to me because there's been so much evidence and sample size of this stuff does not work with him. They are running the stick. Stick is not like a terrible play, and I know I make fun of it a lot. It's double outs and everything. The
double outs on the same side.
Same side, yep. The Packers use it all the time because they have Aaron Rodgers who gets rid of the ball quicker than anybody and throws it and you can see it and anticipate it. But they're doing it with Russ. Russ is terrible at quick game. He is. It's just proven. It is a fact. He's not good at quick game. So they're leaning into that, which is not conducive to what I think this offense has to be. Russ has only scrambled 5 times this entire season. In 2020, he was scrambling over 3 times a game, almost 3.5 times a game. Like, so the fact he's only scrambled 5 total times, he would do that in 2 games, like back in the day. I mean, if not more. So it's the highest percentage of passes Russ has had, or Russ has the highest percentage of passes at or behind the line of scrimmage. 30% of his targets have gone to running backs, which is most of the NFL. I would say, so I was the play, Mrs. Lincoln. I would say that the compliment I have for this offense is the run game is actually fairly well designed. I actually like it. They do some linebacker stuff. They use a lot of jet motion stuff. It's fine. The run game is fine. But this passing game is just, it's not great. They have the worst EPA per dropback out of the shotgun on first and second down. Second worst. The only ones they're ahead is the Bears and Justin Fields, which we know how that passing game looks right now. Yeah, they are just kind of leaning into stuff that he's not good at. It's his best plays have been the vertical shots, which is, yes, he's good at vertical shots, but also his best plays are like deep comebacks off play action. Play action gives you a lot of space between the quarterback and the offensive line. They're taught to set up at 9.5 yards. Some even say 10, but 9.5 is what they say. I always love that coaches also would teach quarterbacks. 9.5 yards. Like, we freaking know how far we are. It's all feel, like, but you get space between you and the offensive line. It's the deepest drop back you can do. That's why Russ is so good at it, because now he can see. Now he can see the routes at 15 yards coming across. He had a beautiful late over route last week against the 49ers. The week before against the Texans, had a beautiful comeback route to Sutton, again, against Derek Stingley. That was great. But then you see them running stick to Albert O, and he's throwing it at his shoes on a clean pocket. And you can see Russ, I took a screenshot of it. You can see Russ looking around the guard going, like, where'd that go? That's why you don't do that. He literally can't see it. I know I don't want to crack a joke like, oh yeah, he's so short, but that's the limitations of it. Is yes, you can do it once in a while, but you can't lean in it. That can't be the main bread of your offense. It has to be the shots and a run game. You just can't listen to, hey, yeah, no, I want to spread it out. We talked about his empty game, and then, we're going to do all this empty stuff. Every time they've got no huddle or empty, there's been a miscommunication between the receivers. There's been, hey, where do I go? Like, what are you calling right here? The fact that they're at that, they lead the league in false starts. They lead the league in holding penalties. They lead the league in delay of games. So keep it simple, stupid. Like, that's kind of what I'm saying with this offense is keep it simple, run the ball, hit them over the top. That is what this offense has to be. And it's funny that they're following the wrong signs that maybe that Russ is saying to them in meetings or something of that sort.
We talked about it last year when the Russell Wilson offense, which is its own thing. There is a Russell Wilson offense. It's threes and layups. If you take away the threes, we got problems.
What is it?
And those threes have not been there. The amount of times that they're checking the ball down, that they're not even checking the ball down, designed throws to running backs within the structure of the offense is a little bit disheartening. Looking at some of these numbers, this is not surprising at this point, but it's stark when you think about just how specific this is to him. 62 of his 106 attempts this year have been outside the numbers. Doing some quick and dirty math, I'm pretty sure that's the fifth highest. Okay, that he has the fifth most attempts outside the numbers, despite being 15th in the NFL on pass attempts. Doing some back of the napkin math, because this number is not out there, I'm pretty sure the only quarterback with a higher percentage of his throws outside the numbers this season is Mitchell Trubisky. And we know what that Steelers passing game looks like right now. It's not a real NFL passing game. So you have this offense that it's just the Russell Wilson offense. And when the other parts of who he is, scrambling ability, off-schedule playmaking, when all that stuff starts to deteriorate and disintegrate, what are you left with? And I brought this up to Diante on Monday, and I'm curious what you think. We're in a world now where all of these great quarterbacks are so incredibly creative as throwers. Okay, Mahomes, some of the shit Mahomes did last week, even just like casually in a bad game, is wild. The arm angle stuff that Lamar can do. All of the things that Josh Allen can do. Russ is not a creative thrower. That's not what he does well. He is not a creative thrower outside of like when he's a creative thrower, it's because he's moving. Yes. It's because he's bringing someone up and he's popping the ball over, or he's making a play outside of structure and finding somebody late. No. It's not bending around guys and making creative throws in a phone booth in traffic the way that some of these other guys can do. And now that the game is played in a more condensed space because of the way the defenses are playing, I think you have to have that creativity as a thrower to be an elite player at the position. And that's just not how he plays, because he can't operate in that condensed space because he's too small to do it. And that's just not how he is as a thrower. He's not twitchy in the same way that these other guys are. He has incredible arm strength, but he's not creative. His arm talent is not the same as some of these other guys. And I think that distinction is really important when you're thinking about how he compares to other guys that are getting paid the same amount of money that he's getting paid.
It's not the like Mahomes or Josh Allen where they're throwing, or Stafford where they're throwing underhand. Lamar throwing sidearm. All of Russ's highlights are the Fran Tarkenton running around for 15 seconds and then launching something. Launching it as far as he can, and it's like, holy crap, he went from a sack to a 70-yard touchdown. Oh my God, that was amazing. It's not, you don't see a lot of like 10-yard little dig routes where he's peppering it in between, throwing behind his body. That's because you're right. He has more pocket passer to him than people have ever thought. And but that is also where he struggles with. It's this weird, He's a weird player. I mean, he is.
But I
That's
need
what
you
he
to
runs.
be able to create as a pocket passer.
I
I
have
need you
to.
to be able to conjure something as a pocket passer that's not just shots down the field.
Yeah, I'm gonna. What you did the threes and layups, and it is. Think of like the 7 seconds or less Suns. Like that's what Russ has been throughout his career. Is like he's created a tempo. We're like just in the middle of the play. I'm saying this is now like a half court offense that only is trying to get layups, and it's hard to win that way. Everything's tight on this offense, and he doesn't play as a quarterback that throws that way. He throws the guys on the move. He throws the guys deep. He doesn't throw into tight spaces over the middle of the field, which is what I don't know if have you heard this for the last year and a half. That's what defenses are doing to quarterbacks now in the NFL. It's the anti-Russ defense, but everyone's running it. It's not just one or two teams now. So that is where you see a lot of struggling, and you don't have an offensive staff that's kind of going like, well, let's do it like this way. They tried. It was one play. He had a sprint out. They tried to do a sprint out on third down to Judy, and he misses the throw. Wide open throw. Sprint out, should be on the move, should be a layup for him. No pun intended. After we've just said layup 20 times, misses that throw. You got to hit the gimmies. Like he's not even hitting the gimmies right now, and that's scary with a team that's paying him that much money and saying, "Hey, you have to be our guy."
All right, let's get to the Rams here. An offense that isn't struggling quite as much, but they're 18th in offensive DVOA. They have been underwhelming offensively, and it's kind of a strange experience watching them right now because watching that Cardinals game, I get excited about the ideas and some of the ways they're trying to solve these problems, but it ultimately leaves me concerned about the long-term viability about what this collection of players might look like over the course of an entire season.
I was scared about the lack of juice in this team, and I think it was well-founded. This team went out and got Allen Robinson. I like Allen Robinson, but I mean, last year with the Bears, he looked terrible, and it's kind of maintained throughout this year. He would be a fine complementary piece, but for what this team needs, you don't want Cooper Kupp is amazing. Don't get me wrong, but you don't want Cooper Kupp running the post routes. You don't want him running the deep stuff. You want him over the intermediate parts of the field and the short areas of the field. And now they have Allen Robinson, who you don't want him running the post routes. You want him on the short areas of the field, the intermediate parts of the field. Okay, now who else we got? Skarsgård. Don't want him running the post routes. You want him running the short routes and intermediate parts. You want him at fullback. Actually, you want him going from fullback running sail routes and over routes, which is cool and it's creative, but that shows the limitations of what they want to do if they want to line up traditionally.
That's exactly right. And they're doing cool, creative shit, but it's because they have to do it. Yes. Some of the biggest chunks that they had in that Cardinals game, you mentioned it. Skarsgård's lined up as a fullback, and he runs the deep corner route on a sail concept. That's awesome. It's a great way to create a chunk play. It's gimmicky nonsense. Like it's smart.
So what's a game play?
That's what they've had to run so many once a game type plays to get chunks. They had another near touchdown to Kupp running that deep corner route from, I think, the backfield in the higher red zone. It was split back. And the split back is a great thing to bring up. They ran tons of split back in this game against the Cardinals with Kupp and a running back in the backfield. They got 100 things off of it. Okay. Mm-hmm. They run Kupp on the bubble with a fake handoff. There's a complement to that where Tutu Atwell runs a screen off of that bubble look. Then one time Kupp runs a corner out off it. It's all well constructed. It's all very smart offensive design, but it's offensive design that you have to tap into when you can't just line up and sling it around the same way that you could last year. Yep. And I think that the juice is one of those concerns. The offensive line is the other. Mm-hmm. They just do not have the guys up front to sit there and say, we're going to play an empty and we're just going to throw it 45 times a game. We dare you. They just don't have those guys. It was early in the first half. They lined up an empty, and Zach Allen just toasts Coleman Shelton one-on-one, instant pressure. And that's what's happening. You got a backup center in there. You got no Andrew Whitworth over on the other side. Havenstein doesn't look right. Yeah, he had a couple snaps in this game where I was like, what is going on? He got hurt later in the game, but this was before he got hurt, where he gets beat inside, and they just don't look very good up front. So I think there are all these different factors playing into it where now they have to play offense in a slightly gimmicky way. They have to lean on the easy buttons, and they have to lean on some of these just simple chunks in ways they didn't have to last year. They had it on all Madden last season in terms of how hard the game was for some of the throws and some of the things that they were doing, but they could do it. Now it's like we need some screens to Tyler Higbee. We need all this nonsense stuff with Skrana coming out of the backfield. in that game against the Cardinals, Stafford was 9 of 10 for 147 yards off play action. Okay. They ran play action on 40.7% of his dropbacks. Last season, it was 24.7. They ran play action a quarter of the time, which for a McVay offense is not very high.
They didn't have to.
They have to now.
Yes.
They have to. And while I think this is the correct plan,
yes,
it does paint them into a corner, and I think it speaks to what their ceiling ultimately can be with the guys who are currently on the roster.
Yeah, when we were prepping on Tuesday, I even said it's like it feels a lot like the 2020 Rams, but not in the sense of what they're doing, but how it feels. It just feels like a whole lot of singles. They're just getting on base. They're trying to win small ball. They're trying to win 3-2. They're not trying to rip off these digs and overs and, oh my God, 20, 25-yard chunks from empty. Oh my God, look, oh my God, how are they doing this? It's a lot of 4-yard gains, 8-yard gains, 6-yard gains, which is fine when you're playing the Cardinals and you're playing the Falcons defense. Notice how we talk about the Falcons offense, not the Falcons defense. Is that is fine when you're playing those types of teams. But now the schedule gets tougher when you play the frickin' 49ers defense. That is very good. So what are you going to do now? When it has a team that's going to outspeed you at every position, it has more juice at every single spot on the field. That's where it's hard. Like, you want to compliment Sean McVay for what they're designing, and this offense is designing. It's so creative. It is fun. Like, we joke about Skarsgård. The Skarsgård stuff is fun. Like, it really is. What they are doing, it's working. Like, statistically and eye test, it's working. It's hard to do that for 20 plus plays a game. That's more of a 10.
And for 17 games.
Yes. And especially now teams have a feel for it. And they go, oh, we'll just do this against you. More tape gets put out on you, the more stuff gets squeezed, and the more that you have to get to your second, third, fourth thing that you want to do out of it. We'll see if they can do it, but it's a hard bet to make. So, but it's complimented for what they're doing, but it's hard to do it for 17 games.
Okay. It's time for Win My Fourth Screen. For those of you who are unfamiliar, each week on this show, I put up the fourth box on my Sunday ticket for an argument or a case to be made from one of our listeners for what game should be on there. Our winner today is William Metcalf, who's a listener from Ireland. So let's just admit all the facts. The Jets should be on the fourth screen again. Frankly, they should be on the fourth screen every single week. You should simply rename it the Jets screen, and it should serve as a constant reminder that what other games you happen to be watching, a worse football game exists. Life as a Jets fan, or at least one who has yet to become totally jaded and devoid of a sense of joy, is a constant buildup of hope only to be disappointed. The Jets are that feeling when the ball is taken away just as Charlie Brown is about to kick it. A constant attempt to cling on to false hope, avoiding reality that really we're just not that good. So yeah, this week the prodigal son returns to save our season. The boy wonder, the term I can't say, the guy who threw that one beautiful ball on his pro day. We have weapons around him, promising first and second year players abound in the skill positions. The stage is set for his glorious second coming, where he will torch the Steelers and Garrett Wilson will further announce himself as the premier rookie receiver. Reed and Sauce should shut down any threat that Mitchell Trubisky can throw at us, and this should put the league on notice that the Jets might just avoid a top 5 pick next season. Such are the lofty expectations I put on this team. But you know what's really going to happen? There will be a Zach Wilson sack fumble return for a touchdown in the first 5 minutes, followed by a pick 6. Then the game will be out of sight by halftime. The Jets will lose by 10 or more, and I'm pretty sure we'll still have one healthy offensive tackle for the gods to strike down. If I had to watch this shit show every single week, then so should you. And then at least I'll know I'm not alone in my misery. Will from Ireland with love.
Jets, Jets. This is a magical segment.
It took 3 weeks. It took 3 weeks, and the guy they drafted second overall is stepping back into the lineup today.
Yeah,
he is so right, because there are moments where I'm sitting there and I'm doing woe is me bullshit with my sports fandom, and it's like, you know what? There have been some decent moments. At least I had the 2018 season.
Yeah,
it was a mirage, but at least I had that moment. If I was a Jets fan, it's been so long since you've had that. And every single offseason comes with, look at all the first round picks, look at all of the money, and this is where we are. Things might be fine, but the fact that people like Will are this down, this bad, this early, yeesh.
Right. Sauce Gardner does look good. Garrett Wilson does look good. We'll leave it at that.
There are little kernels of hope, but those kernels of hope are not enough.
No, I love that. I know. That's the thing. It's like, it should be so exciting that Zach Wilson's coming to play. And it's like, it's just a feeling of dread that these guys have with it. It's the storm incoming of what they're expecting. Like, maybe if you just keep the expectations low, you'll be pleasantly surprised, but we'll see.
All right. we were going to hit Thursday Night Football, run a little bit long. We were going to recap Thursday Night Football a
Yes,
little
we
bit
are.
later. We're going to recap Thursday Night Football in like 6.5 hours. So come back and check that out. Just a heads up. Our Thursday Night Football recap, which is Bengals Dolphins, a great Thursday night game. I'm very excited to watch it. Only available on our YouTube channel. Okay. If you have not subscribed, subscribe. Come watch us. Come hang out. We're going to be doing this. It's a great time. You're going to be up anyway. You can't fall asleep right after the game is over. What are you going to be doing? You're not working tomorrow. Even if you are, you're not really working. Come hang out with us. Let's talk about the game. We're going to try doing these on YouTube exclusively on Monday and Thursday nights from now on. So please come check that out. We highly encourage you guys to do that. Before we get out of here, it's time for Picks of the Week.
And the pick is finally in.
All right, here we go. First of all, a couple guys that we shouted out before, want to keep shouting them out. Bubba Stu Betts and Shane Vitosh are both 13-2 through 3 weeks. I don't even know how that's possible. We have 8 people at 12-3, so congratulations to you guys.
There you go.
I was 2-3 last week. We should probably put in what we picked last week because I always forget. But I was 2-3 last week. I'm 8-7 on the season. I hate this slate of games. I absolutely hate it. It's all like 3.5 and 1.5 and 2.5, and it's like there's awful. Okay. All right. So first of all, here I have the Dolphins plus 3.5 at the Bengals today. It just
get it over with. Rip the Band-Aid off.
It's like I don't know. It feels like a field goal game. I'll take the 3.5. Like I think these teams are close enough. I have the Lions minus 4.5 against the Seahawks.
Love that.
The Lions are pretty good. Like I just think the Lions offense is one of the. I mean, they are a top 10 team by DVOA. They're playing against the defense that I think is dead last in EPA per dropback allowed. We saw what the Falcons did to them last week. Yeah. So I think the Lions are really going to be able to move the ball in this game at home. I have the Jags plus 6.5 at the Eagles. I think the Jags are good, man. I think this is a real test for Philly. So that's one of the bigger lines on the entire board this week. I'm going to take the points. I'm doing this to myself again. I have the Colts minus 2.5.
Oh, man. Glutton for punishment. Unbelievable.
You are.
I think the Titans are actively bad. And it's a down year. That they're banged up. Their offensive line is full of guys that are borderline starters in the league. They're just rolling especially spinning the wheel for who's going to play corner for them, which when you consider how much they've spent on that position is kind of wild. So I don't know. The Colts are at home, right? They're 2.5-point favorites or on their road.
No, it's in home.
Yeah, all right. So the 2.5-point favorites at home. I'm taking that. I don't feel good about it, but I'm taking it. And then the Cardinals are getting points against the Panthers.
I can't believe this. This is the one I'm cracking up about.
I have to do this. I cannot, in good conscience, take the Panthers should not be favored over anyone. So I'm taking the 1.5 points with the Cardinals right now. Again, I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about any of these.
I can understand that argument for it. We have some overlap. I'm also glutton for punishment. I did the Colts minus 2.5 at home against the Titans.
Both you guys, man. Unbelievable.
I know.
Unbelievable.
I can't believe it.
Right? We need a clinging to our prior segment on the Colts eventually if this keeps going like this.
After we've berated them for 2 weeks, just bashed them, just gone, oh my God, I can't believe they do this. Yep, there I am betting on Gus Bradley once
What
again.
sort of budget do we have on this show? Like if we were to hire someone who would just stand next to me and every single time I talk myself into the Colts again, they would just spray me with a spray bottle like a cat. Is that something that we could fit into the budget of the show?
I think we could probably make that happen.
Okay.
Hopefully one of our purse string holders is hopefully watching this right now and just making a note of it.
Just as an idea.
Put it on the budget for next year. I also did the Jaguars plus 6.5 at the Eagles. I do think the Eagles are overall a better team, but 6.5 is a lot. That's a lot of points. I thought it would be more like a 4.5 kind of line. So I'm going to take the points there. I think it's going to be a really fun game. I'm doing the Falcons plus 2.5 hosting the Browns. I'm loving this. I think this game's going to be a barn burner. So I'm taking the points. I really do. I think
it should be
really
10-7. I swear to God.
That's how it always works, right? I remember last year the Cowboys were playing the Chiefs and we were all geeked up for it. And I think it was 13-7 at the end.
It's a slog.
We did the whole offensive breakdown for that game. Yeah, I'm not bitter. So now we got the Raiders minus 2.5 hosting the Broncos. If you can't tell, a little low on the Broncos offense. So, and I think this Raiders team, anytime the owner meets with the head coach in the stadium before the press conference, I think there's going to be a little fire lit under this Raiders team.
3 games into the season.
3 games in with another big deal. It's unbelievable. So I think there's going to be a little fire under that Raiders team. I think Devontae Adams is probably going to get about 20 targets in this game. Anyone wants to DFS that. Also, Patrick Graham, his defensive coordinator, going against Russell Wilson. So you got a cover 2 guy going against Russell Wilson's kryptonite. Yeah, I don't know. I like this fit. I like the bet, and I think that's it. Yep, I have the Lions host the Seahawks -4.5. I think the Seahawks team, I do like a lot of the pieces. They're just not a complete team. I think this Lions team is playing with confidence. I think we all know that. They're a feisty team. Going to be different seeing them as a favorite, but I do think this is a good matchup for them where they can just kind of pound away, hit some big plays, play some good defense. I think that's going to be a good game for them.
35-30, like 36-31. That's what I want from that game. 36-31 Lions. That's what I'm into.
It also feels like the sort of game to me, you guys, where the Lions can just sort of bully them around and sit on the ball and really dominate the game that way. So that is our one unanimous pick this week. I am also in on the Lions -4.5 against the Seahawks. I've got 3 unique picks, 3 games we have yet to hear. Vikings -2.5 against the Saints. Dalvin Cook, full participant in practice on Thursday. Even without him, Alexander Madison would be able to step right in. But, hey, we'd like to see Dalvin out there. I mean, I just don't know what the Saints do well and do consistently. I think the Vikings win that game. I'm very surprised that's only a 2.5. Hey, I'm going to be quad boxing with the Jets and Steelers, too, because I'm picking the Jets +3.5.
Love it.
I'll take the hook outright. Like, these are 2 offenses that I'm not sure exactly know what they want to do when they go out there, but at least I know what to expect of the Jets skill players. And I'm not so sure I can say that about the Steelers because of the Steelers offensive line issues. So give me the field goal plus that hook, and I'll go ahead and I'll take the Jets the +3.5. Ravens and Bills, this just feels like a superhero quarterback game where they go back and forth, and it's Lamar, then Josh, then Lamar, then Josh. So one team getting more than a field goal, I'll take that team, especially with them playing at home. Give me the Ravens +3.5 in that one. And then, guys, I'm going to go against you. You guys both are on the Jaguars +6.5. I think this is a step up in weight class that the Jaguars are not quite ready for. It would just be a little bit too easy of an ascent if they just went into Philly.
A horse race,
a good game.
A horse race going to grade 1.
Right.
Yeah, grade 1 steak.
Exactly. We're going to knock them down a little bit. We thought the Eagles were going to be this team. Robert, you've said it so many times, talking to Bull Wolf. Even if Jalen Hurts didn't take a step forward, everything they had around him smelled like an 11-win team. Well, he's taking that step forward. The Eagles are that Super Bowl contender. I think they give a little dose of reality to the Jaguars this week and cover the 6.5.
I think you just wanted to bet the London game so you could just get up and have action.
8:30 Central Time, man. It's great.
So here's my question about the London game. Obviously, Kirk struggles with
island games. Yeah.
Is there some sort of like temporal shift that is going to screw with him in this game? Even though it's 8:30 for us, it's an
still
afternoon game in London. So I think there's stuff to consider there. I'm trying to stall because I'm trying to look up what Kirk Cousins' stats are in London games and if he's actually played one or not.
Has he played one?
It's too hard. I got him get in there. I don't know if he's played one.
So it is an island game on a literal island for him.
Yeah.
Island on an island. So maybe that's got
I like that.
Yeah, that's something to consider. I couldn't get there to see if
I called Kirk Cousins the anti-vampire the other day, a couple of weeks ago, because I was so disappointed in betting on the Vikings. And someone goes, "No, he is a vampire. He sucks at night." And I was like, "Yeah, that was the joke. That was the joke."
So, by the way, it's one thing that's very hilarious. I was trying to sort the London stats by pass attempts. The only quarterback since 2018 who has since 2016 with more than 100 pass attempts combined at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and Wembley is Blake Bortles because of all the Jaguars games that are played there, which is hilarious. I was like, why is Blake Bortles the only person that came up here? It's because of that. Here, are you ready?
Yes.
There are 21 quarterbacks who have attempted at least 20 passes at Tottenham or Wembley Stadium. Kirk Cousins is 5th in EPA per dropback among those quarterbacks. 0.39. He's averaged 8.18 yards per attempt on 68% completions, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. So Kirk has actually been pretty good in London, and that kind of ruins my joke, and I'm a little upset about it. All right,
they love Cousins over there.
That is all we got. That's all we got for right now. We will be back.
Go down.
We will be back a little bit later tonight with our Thursday night football recap. Please come back and check that out on YouTube. I don't know, 11:30 Eastern, right in that range when the game is over. That's when we'll be doing this. Really fun Thursday night game. Come watch. Come subscribe to the YouTube channel. We do this show on the YouTube Live every Thursday. We do the Monday Hangover with Diante live every single Monday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. And the YouTube recaps are solely going to be on the YouTube channel. on Monday and Thursday nights. So if you have not subscribed, please go do that. Also, please subscribe to The Athletic, theathletic.com/football show. And please subscribe and rate and review the podcast itself. We'll be back a little bit later tonight. In the meantime, really appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate Deontay's time. We'll talk to you guys later. Sunday Night Football is back on Peacock and NBC. Experience live games, full replays, exclusive post-game breakdowns, and so much more. Watch the biggest and brightest stars like Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes conquer the gridiron and fuel your fandom with commentary from the hottest talent in the booth and the studio. Hear Mike Tirico with the play-by-play, commentary from Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark on the sideline, and Maria Taylor with pregame coverage. When you stream Sunday Night Football on Peacock, you'll get access to tons of live sports, hit shows, new movies, and more, like the NBC Sports virtual channel. It's your always-on destination for sports talk and news, with great shows like Pro Football Talk, Brother from Another, and Chris Sims Unbuttoned. Join today and stream whenever you want, wherever you want. Because if it's made for Sunday night, it's made for Peacock and NBC.